Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Lewis, editor of Building Enclosure. Thanks for listening along with us today. On May 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we are hosting a free webinar, Proper Wind Design of Roof Systems. Mark Graham, NRCA's Vice President of Technical Services, will provide a basic overview of proper wind design of roof systems and discuss ASCE 722's new tornado wind load provisions, which apply over a large region of the U.S. Mark is here today to chat with us about what he'll be going over during the live event. Mark, thanks for sitting with us.
Thanks for being here with me.
So to kick off, how does wind design come into play when designing roof systems?
Wind design plays an important role in overall roof design because it can dictate the particular roof system used, and it's also a code requirement. So it can affect attachment, adhesion, things along that line. So proper wind design plays an important overall role in the whole scheme of roof system design.
Now, if we're looking at the difference between high winds, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, and just high winds in general, what kind of winds do we see with hurricanes and tornadoes?
Uh, Hurricanes and tornadoes tend to be a little bit different. They're different in size, they're different in magnitude. Also, geographically, they're different. I mean, typically we see hurricanes in the coastline areas along the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico. Tornadoes, on the other hand, tend to be more in the central portion of the country. So it's a little bit geography and a little bit different physics and actual wind design and nature of the winds themselves.
Now, if we're looking at ASCE 722's new tornado wind load provisions, what do architects and designers need to know?
It's interesting looking at ASCE 7 over the years, and the methodology that I think many of us were taught on wind design actually came out of the 1970s. And in the last handful of years, ASCE 7 has kind of ratcheted up several layers. We are now doing what's referred to as ultimate strength design, which is a little bit more complex calculation. Interestingly enough, we still have to report the old allowable stress design method. And now with ASCE 722 over a large portion of the United States, virtually everything east of the Rocky Mountains, we actually have to do a separate tornado design. So what only a few years ago was one relatively simple, straightforward calculation has now turned into three. So it's become even more challenging. And if you don't like math, it's now 3 times the fun.
Now, will you be sharing any examples during the webinar?
Instead of doing a deep dive into calculations and making the attendees do math, I basically walk everybody through an example, and the advantage of that is I'm doing the math instead of the attendees. And the purpose of that is just to show you the differences between, for example, a tornado design, a conventional wind design, and what a tornado design would mean. So I like to say this presentation is kind of deeply nerdy, but I've taken the math out of it, so hopefully it's a lot more palatable.
It's all right. We like nerdy at Building Enclosure, so you're talking to the right audience. Now, what are some ways that we can design for resistance to wind and tornado loads?
Boy, that's an interesting question because it really depends on the specific roof system selected in the design. So going back to almost your first question, for things like asphalt shingles, we design for wind speed. So tornadoes typically result in higher wind speeds, so you ratchet up the classification that's needed on asphalt shingles. For membrane roof systems, we deal with uplift pressures, so that's where the calculation comes in. So our tornado design typically results in higher pressures, so we need a higher classified roof system. So it's basically designing to a little bit higher level, and the calculation dictates how high that level needs to be above the standard bar for a typical wind design.
Now, lastly, I just want to ask, what else will attendees learn during the webinar?
I'm going to get into a little bit of the basics because I think there's a lot of misconceptions on wind design, and maybe it's a lack of understanding, or maybe it's a lack of folks not wanting to be that nerd. But at the end of the day, it's really not all that difficult. once you know some of the background. So we're going to get a little bit into the background and a little bit of a difference between a common windstorm, a hurricane, and then a tornado. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about wind warranties, because sometimes I think designers like to maybe specify a wind warranty and not do their homework, not do their actual calculations. And I think the example and some of the things we'll go through are going to pretty quickly show that relying on a warranty is probably not the best way of dealing with this.
Well, thank you again, Mark, for joining me today.
Look forward to doing it.
To register for this free webinar, head to continuingeducation.bmpmedia.com. Until next time, visit us at buildingclosureonline.com for your technical and educational resources.